Hi, and welcome to the Resilience Podcast. I'm Brad Hook, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Dr. Steven Laureys. Dr. Steven is an award-winning brain scientist and best-selling author who has dedicated over 25 years to pioneering research into the human mind. Utilizing cutting-edge technologies, many of which we'll talk about today, he explores the realms of consciousness in meditation, sleep, connection, psychedelics, and more. His extensive research includes studying the brains of astronauts, top athletes, and even Buddhist monks to really understand how consciousness works. If you're in search of a grounded, scientific perspective on the mind and meditation, Steven is your go-to expert. Please do click on the notes below and connect with Dr. Steven both there and in the podcast starting now. Dr. Steven, welcome to the Resilience Podcast. It's a real privilege to get the opportunity to talk with you this evening.
Thanks for having me, Brad.
Of course, of course. So perhaps a good place to start for our audience is maybe just a little bit of background about you. Could you share some of your story?
Well, I'm a physician, a neurologist from Belgium, a neuroscientist. I founded the Coma Science Group and then the GIGA Consciousness Research Unit at the University in Liège. And since about 2 years now, I'm also in Canada doing research at the Cerveau Brain Research Institute. And our challenge and my passion, professionally speaking, is try and understand our mind, thoughts, perceptions, emotions. And we do so by state-of-the-art neuroimaging and all possible neurotechnologies.
Excellent, interesting work. Can you help us translate neuroscience and the power of the mind to business practice? What are some insights from your experience?
Well, my area of expertise is neuroplasticity, which is the changes in the brain's connections in pathology. But since actually a personal crisis, and that's what the book, the Neuroscience, the No Nonsense Meditation book is all about. I oriented the research also towards neuroplasticity in health and how we can change our life habits and the impact of meditation, sleep, physical activities. And that is true for all of us, and in particular for people who are businessmen, entrepreneurs, managers. And we now have a specific program trying to understand the entrepreneur's mindset, which I think is fascinating to work with these extraordinary minds and the power of the mind, as you mentioned. Also working with athletes, actually. I know you're a surfer, so we try to help them perform better, because it's not just the physical preparation. A lot is going on up there between our ears. We also work with artists. We have been for over a decade now also looking into the brains of astronauts and how they adapt to the most extreme situation up there in the International Space Station. So all of that is wonderful to do with a team of brilliant minds, and then translate that knowledge to our own realities, whether you're in entrepreneurship or a student or a parent or whatever.
Amazing, fascinating work. And in terms of neural plasticity, do you find that, as we do in the work that we do, a foundation of calm is essential, because people report so much stress and overwhelm, which triggers fight, flight, freeze responses. And I'm guessing that neural plasticity is hindered when people are in those states of perpetual stress.
Absolutely. I think you mentioned it in your book, Resilience Mastery, and your studies with the Institute. I think I fully agree with those conclusions, and stress is really the common denominator, and it's a big challenge. As said, we all have our own phases in life, and it will be different if you're a student or a young parent or uh, an elderly or whatever. But that's also what I see in my consultation or teleconsultations in neurology, that stress makes basically every symptom worse. It causes a number of diseases, and then for nearly all of them, it makes it worse. So indeed, to in this busy world, and we're connected, and we are spending a lot of time behind our screens as we do now, and all these technologies are wonderful, but I think the challenge is to reconnect with ourselves, also with nature. You'll probably agree as a surfer.
100%.
And you can't do that in the virtual reality, how immersive it may be. So absolutely bring some calm in that wild monkey mind with jumping thoughts, and as the studies show, spending a lot of time not in the present but anticipating what's going to happen next, or pondering on our past. So that you can learn that. Unfortunately, it's not part of the curriculum in schools. And so that's why, again, as a neurologist, I see so many people who only are interested in this when they hit the bottom, and they have a mental breakdown, burnout, or sleeping problems, tension, headache, whatever. And I think it's really strange that we don't emphasize more the importance of reconnecting with our emotional needs and mental strength.
Definitely. How important are mindfulness and compassion as practices in the research you've done?
So we started by studying top athletes of the mind, these Buddhist monks. One quite famous, you might know, is Mathieu Ricard. He's famous in the French-speaking world, wrote a number of books. He's kind of the rock star of Buddhism in French-speaking world, and translator of the Dalai Lama. So thanks to him, we had a number of these experts and later Zen masters, and that for us was kind of easy to show how quite extreme practices of meditation impact the structure and the function of the brain. But of course, you don't need to be a Buddhist or a Zen master or a monk. I'm none of them. Studies show that if simple people like myself start to meditate, we can experience the benefits, and also using neuroimaging, see those changes. And that was, for me as a scientist, really impressive. And so we translated that to the clinic. We have a number of clinical trials. And of course, there's way more research needed to, in a medical context, have the precise indications, contraindications, possible side effects. So that's ongoing work. But I think we can no longer say, well, meditation, I don't believe in it, because it's just backed up by science. And now, as said, we need to give it a place in modern medicine. That's what we try to do.
And compassion is a natural output of meditation, or is that a practice that is separate or aligned?
Well, meditation, it depends on how you define it, and mindfulness is very often used, and mindfulness-based stress reduction 8-week programs is the most scientifically validated, and many see it as a relaxation technique, or indeed how to deal with stress differently. But it's way more than that. As you say, it also helps to reconnect with your own emotional needs, and develop empathy and compassion. And so that kind of loving kindness meditation, which is, by the way, also the favorite practice of Mathieu Ricard and many other Buddhist monks and lamas, is something that helps not only patients but also each and every one of us. And I think we see the impact of loving kindness, of training those networks in the brain, and the old view that your brain is like static and there's not much you can do. Many patients would share with me, well, it runs in the family, I can't help it, my mom, my sister, whatever is like that. And that turns out not to be true. So there's a lot you can actually do. We thought it was about 30% genetics. More and more recent research shows that it's probably less, which leaves a lot of room for changing our lifestyle and using meditation and other practices to try to take care of our mental well-being, and, as you mentioned, try to be better human beings and develop compassion, which I find is not the most easy practice. So often I would suggest to start with focused attention, breathing, and then next you can go to those practices, because it's really meditation is a number of techniques where it's like sport. There's many ways to do it.
Great. And what about sleep as a practice? Who would have thought one day it would be regarded as something you need to actually practice and do well? But in this world full of lights and information, I think considering sleep one of your core practices is essential, especially for how you perceive and deal with stress, your focus, your alertness. What are your thoughts on sleep?
You're absolutely right, and I've read it in your book and checked your app and website. It's probably a very good idea to invest in good quality sleep. I actually just finished a book on sleep. It's not yet out in English, but in French. And again, it's often a negative spiral. I have patients who suffer from chronic stress, and then that can lead to anxiety, to sleeping problems, little voice in our head turning and turning and keeping us awake or waking us up in the middle of the night. And then we become more anxious and stressed, and you have that vicious circle. And as a physician, I was trained to make a diagnosis and then to prescribe pills or surgical interventions or whatever. And it's clear that that's not enough. I think that modern medicine should give a more central active role to patients. And when you have sleeping problems, and it's a very frequent challenge for many of us, whether you're in New Zealand, Europe, or America, wherever, and we go for quick fixes. So swallow a pill and you lose consciousness. But that kind of pharmacological sleep does not permit your brain to really restore and benefit from many effects. And so we should again try and think about the causes. Why is it I can't fall asleep? And it's not just one intervention. Meditation, of course, can help, both when you're in bed, but also sleep is something that you prepare during the daytime. And physical activity, of course, helps. And there's many tricks and healthy life habits that can help you to fall asleep, because it's something that needs letting go. When you have trouble falling asleep, it's just being harder. If you say, I want to sleep, it's terrible, it's whatever time in the night and I'm still awake, and so on and so forth. So yes, we can learn to have a healthy sleep routine, and then find good quality restorative sleep. And it's probably my number one if I would need to pick. But again, it's not only sleep, it's all of the things we're discussing. But I see that it's a challenge for many of us. So fully agree.
Yeah. Prioritizing and fixing your sleep is definitely possible. I remember after my daughter was born, I thought, I'll never have a good night's sleep again. This is it. But with small changes, I don't think grand changes really work. Small little adjustments, you can start to secure a better sleep than last night. I measure it with a ring. I think wearables can be quite useful. I'm not sure your perspective.
Yes, absolutely. I'm a big fan of those wearables. Some people become just more anxious, and we're all
Of course.
having our preferences. But I had the Oura ring, if that's the one you're talking about. I think they became a bit too expensive now,
They are.
so I just kept my Apple Watch. At one point, I had, I think, 4 devices. The Withings under my mattress, um, and the smartwatch, and the iPhone, and all the possible technologies that actually we compared them with, real polysomnography, so the measures of brain activity, and all the other variables, heart rate, and breathing frequency we have in the sleeping lab, and they are becoming better and better. And also with big data, artificial intelligence, you get feedback that is tailored to your personal situation. And I'm very happy, and I see many patients that use them in a very positive way.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, just having that readiness score, knowing, did I recover from yesterday's activities? And that's such a nice guide to what I do today. Yeah. But interesting. I'm interested in your perspective on an entrepreneur's mindset and what neuroeconomics actually means.
So we try to understand, and that was during COVID, how that quite extreme situation, which for us was like a wonderful opportunity, an experiment where many entrepreneurs failed, and a lot of bankruptcy, and others flourished. So we had hundreds of them filling in questionnaires and trying to understand the entrepreneur's mindset, compared it to other professionals such as managers, and it turned out that one key quality is cognitive flexibility, and that is how you can deal with uncertainty. And of course, with COVID, there was a lot of uncertainty,
Mm.
and so cognitive flexibility is that capacity to change your plan when things turn out otherwise as you planned, and that's quite often the case, of course, not just for entrepreneurs. And so we linked that quality to brain measures. That's what we do. My favorite organ, with MRI and with EEG, measuring the electrical activity. And we just published actually the results. There's a part of the brain called the insula, which is deep inside, that seems to be critical for cognitive flexibility, and their connections with the prefrontal cortex were more developed in experienced serial entrepreneurs. And we now try again to translate that knowledge to young people, and the idea is of course not that I can put someone in the MRI and say, oh, you're born a good entrepreneur, because I think motivation is everything, but to help them, and to with the School of Economics and university, accompany these young people, and again working on lifestyle changes, small changes sometimes, as you said, but with repeating them over time, and combining things in making them better in their job. But so that was wonderful. I met a number of very impressive people, and I again, just as like the Buddhist monks, I'm very grateful to be able to pick their brains, quite
Mm.
literally.
And does this align with growth mindset type concepts? Like, it's how you look at it. Also exposure to challenge, like don't resist, lean into your discomfort. All of those will strengthen the connection.
Yes, there is no growth in your comfort zone, and so we I think most of us live quite comfortable lives. People listening to this podcast, we have internet and smart phones and TV and a safe place to live, and yet it's a challenge to be happy and to find balance. So it's wonderful to see how we can use science to try and take on those challenges, and so it's very positive. I mean, there's a lot we can do. So I think there's a lot of reason to be optimistic, and technologies can help us, but it's not just the technology. I also I mentioned it before, emphasized the difference between our brain and computers, artificial intelligence. So that's the challenge now, to more emphasize the creativity, the motivation, the feelings, and that's both the happiness as the frustration, and surfing the waves as you
Yes.
are very fortunate to do at your place.
Yeah, great perspective. What is neuroergonomics?
Well, it's a sexy term now. We put neuro in front of everything, and then it sells well. It's
I like
neuro
it.
entrepreneurship and neuro ethics and neuro everything. But yeah, neuro ergonomics is interesting in thinking about, well, how can I again adapt my workspace and um, use the latest knowledge and studies from neuroscience in that regard. So it's for me nice as a neurologist to see how all these disciplines now are interacting and benefiting from the different angles to look at the challenges and benefiting from the different areas of expertise. But I'm not an expert specifically in that field.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. How, from your perspective, can leaders increase creativity, collaboration, teamwork, and maybe even their own leadership competencies using some of the tools that you've researched?
Why you do things is very important, and so the value of what you are generating and whatever business or leadership role you have, I I think it is good to inspire others and to try and do good. Uh, and if you do so, I think you will benefit yourself from those activities, and it's a question of balance. I see many leaders, top politicians, or whatever, top people in their field, in my consultation struggling because the expectations are very high, being in the spotlight, being the one everyone looks at, and having not necessarily many people to share your doubts, and so that can lead to yes, existential crises or negative lifestyle habits and even destructive behavior, or not the right balance with what I believe is the most important, is your role, not just as a leader professionally, but also as a partner, as a parent. And so again, I'm very optimistic because I think these soft skills, that social intelligence, things we don't learn in school or universities, is nevertheless something one can develop. And podcasts is this one, and many books, and all the other opportunities now to try and pay attention to why we do what we do and how we can try to find that balance. And of course, there's all the thing about specific programs for focus, creativity, and so on and so forth. But I've learned a lot, and I share that with them, of working also in palliative care. And I mentioned I see a lot of people with severe brain damage and in the end of life. These leaders and top people, whatever their field is, then really connect with what is important, and that is your social network and your family, your friends. Never ever someone has said, Dr. Laureys, I regret I didn't spend more time in the office, of course. And yet we spend a lot of time in the office, or trying to make money, pay the bills. So yeah, I think it's all a question of balance. And there's a lot of programs and coaching on how you can specifically develop focus, develop creativity, but still, and you mentioned compassion and loving kindness, I think that maybe the most important is why we do what we do, and try to make it useful for others and for the planet. And I have 5 kids. I see that also the oldest is 24, the youngest is 3. You mentioned your sleeping problem, so I very much resonates with me. But so the older ones, they start working, they look for a job, but they're not interested necessarily in what's my salary, and do I have a car or whatever benefit, but what is it I'm going to do, and what is it I'm going to enjoy. And again, that's I think wonderful news. So I don't know if I answered your question, by the way, but these are the things I've kind of picked up from working and interacting with so-called leaders and top figures.
It's interesting. It really aligns with our latest research, which showed that the number one factor supporting those with high resilience is actually fulfillment. And it used to be quite different. It was focus only 5 years ago. And now it's shifted to fulfillment and sleep quality and relaxation. These are actually supporting high resilience. Yeah.
And that's wonderful. So
it is.
That's great. I think that opportunity to because, as you say, these things change, right? The challenges change in society, and so we need to keep up. And I look forward to your future results and how we can benefit from that.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll definitely keep you in the loop. How does human intelligence and creativity differ from AI and neurorobotics? I know it's a big question and it's something a lot of people are interested in, but from your perspective, where are we going?
Well, no, it's a great question, and I'm an expert in human consciousness and natural intelligence, and I think it's very, very different. We actually try to answer those questions within a big European program called the Human Brain Project, and we try to model the human mind, and we work, of course, with the most advanced supercomputers and those algorithms in artificial intelligence. My team, it's about 50 people. Half of them are these nerds, and they're very, very smart, have those classifiers and use the latest technology to help us both in clinical reality by decoding brain images and brain signals, and working on brain-computer interfaces and all of that, of course, to help patients. Yet I would disagree with what I sometimes hear from people in Silicon Valley and comparing the brain to a computer. It's fundamentally different from what we currently have, at least in computers, even quantum computers, because we're living organisms, and we feel, and we have emotions, true perceptions and thoughts, and a computer simply has none of that. so it can pretend, it understands you, and it can. We also worked with Toyota research and development, and they try to have these empathic cars that can kind of read your emotions, but it's
Mm.
all pretending, and they become quite good at it. Thanks to them also, I work with these robots, and they play music, and they do that quite well. But every evening it's like the same, exactly the same interpretation of whatever piece of classical music. And one of their latest one, you can check it out on YouTube, is a um, artificial intelligent robot playing basketball. It's terribly boring because it never misses. So every
Mm.
time now it's learned really to have hit after hit. Now also my oldest boy is playing basketball, but he wanted to do it. He enjoys when he wins, and he's frustrated when he feels. And I think that's the beauty of,
Yeah.
of our species, and other animals, by the way. So I think there's more intelligence in a cockroach than there is in the most advanced supercomputer. And so we need to exactly invest in those differences, in the creativity, as you mentioned, the feelings, the motivation, and the ethics, because
Mm.
computers now, I also um, work in countries like Saudi Arabia, and you have these robots who are policemen there, and there's even you know possibility now of replacing our judges by some supercomputer artificial intelligent program. But I don't think we want that. I prefer still the human, even with its flaws and errors, rather than to see computers also in my field care for other people, or become a computer, a robot ourselves. So we have feelings, ups and downs, and that's wonderful. So we need to reconnect with that humanity. And again, meditation is an invitation to do exactly that, because it's impossible to be like happy all the time, or um, have the kindness all the time. So we have our ups and downs, and that's okay. um, Great question. And I do think that with the current state of affairs, there is no conscious robot or machine, and will never be, because it's not just making them even quicker or more powerful. It's fundamentally different from the emotional beings that we are.
Mm. Yeah, the emotions are the real differentiators, and they're so subtle, designed to help us navigate a world that these robots, computers, uh, don't have to worry about in ways they don't have to worry about. Do you think there's much risk of or any opportunities in integrating with computers, neural link, having implants, adding, augmenting our consciousness?
Oh, well, we do that actually. I mentioned the brain-computer interfaces, so we're quite strong with the Coma Science Group in decoding brain signals. We do that non-invasively, so that's putting electrodes on the head, or using our functional MRIs, but of course that's less practical. Neuralink, of course, we know, because it's Elon Musk, and it gets a lot of media attention, but it's
Mhm.
just putting very sophisticated electrodes into the brain. The hardware is getting better and better, and then of course the software and the ways to analyze that signal. And so yes, of course, it helps us to use these neuroprosthetics to help the deaf hear again. Is just now routine intervention with cochlear implants. Also now the possibility for some people with blindness to retinal implants, have them see again. We work, as mentioned, with traumatic brain injury, the paralyzed, who can there is some hope, and some examples of people where we can short circuit when there's the motor circuits that are interrupted, and we can indeed have them walk again. But those are kind of the simple things, the sensory problems, motor problems, what goes in and goes out. The real challenge, Brett, is I think that we fail to understand the neural code of consciousness, which is my passion and challenge, understanding thoughts. And that really is a mystery. And so as long as we have not understood that, there's no neural link or whatever invasive deep brain electrode that will be able to upgrade or help you really. So it's just tricks. Yes, we can, as said, in my field, communicate with people after coma, and we're working to decode dreams. It's fascinating research, but it would be arrogant to claim that we fully understand how thoughts emerge. We have no explanatory theory of consciousness yet. Some say we will never have, but I'm naively optimistic, and at least try, because the clinical implications, of course, are important. So yes, I believe in the integration. It's already happening now. And of course, the challenge is to make good use of it.
Mm. I really love your mission, and I think that if we can help people enjoy this gift that is consciousness and upgrade our consciousness, yeah, we really can work towards a better future. It sounds grand, but I believe it's possible. We have to try. You mentioned some great tips. So sleep, relaxation, meditation, compassion, developing that loving kindness, perhaps as a second level. And then purpose as well. Any other tips for people out there looking to really optimize their experience?
Physical exercise. I think it is clear that you mentioned coming out of our comfort zone also by aerobic physical activity. So 3 times a week, 20 minutes sweat. That's changing the neurotransmitters up there. So that's definitely on the list. And of course, the quality of what we eat. And the interaction between the brain and the guts and the microbiome, and very exciting new research how that impacts and even can be related to mental disease and well-being. So yeah, I think that would be the different suggestions, with finally also the importance of social contacts and nature. Actually, I'm speaking from Canada, where I'm setting up a new lab, and I can prescribe here nature therapy. So annual free ticket for one of Canada's wonderful nature parks. And again, this is not just walking in the woods that will cure your brain tumor or hemorrhage or whatever, but complementary to the classical, pharmacological and surgical interventions. I think we can change our life habits and spend time in nature that has shown benefits for mental, physical health and the immune system. Again, these are things that, thanks to COVID, we could also document.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. How can people connect with you to find out more about your work and your books?
Very happy to connect through LinkedIn, Instagram, trying not to spend too much time in the virtual world, Facebook. And then, of course, there's the book, the No Nonsense Meditation book. I enjoyed writing. I try to, share stories from my own experience, how I discovered meditation, our own research, and summarizing the past research of 2 decades now, and how that translates to the clinical reality as a neurologist, and I'll prescribe meditation. But the message of that book, that's very easy to read, is also not to put the bar too high. So sometimes people would contact me and very high expectations, and it's this personal discovery. So nobody can do it, for you. You can read whatever book or use whatever app. In the end, meditation is meditating. So you just need to try it out and adapt it to your own personal needs. And if I can be of help, very happy to connect through the different channels. And I'm sure you will put it also in your podcast. So it's very, very wonderful for me actually to benefit from all those questions and learn from them.
Thank you so much, Dr. Steven Laureys. Wonderful work. We're big fans. And as you mentioned, all of the links will be in the show notes. So please do click. I highly recommend the book. And we look forward to reconnecting again soon. Thank you, Dr. Steven.
Thank you. Take good care.
Will do. Take care, everyone. And we'll see you all in the next episode of the Resilience Podcast. See you.